Cinematic Shuffle has shuffled once again, this time only transporting me to last year to discuss an MCU film that I did see, but I didn't end up reviewing on my channel because I was waiting to do that as a part of my Critics Initiative series that I've been managing, but now that that's apparently dead in the water, I kind of figured that it's high time to get back to it. If you were around last week, you would have seen me give off my 3 hints for what I'd be talking about today. Those hints were the monsters, the witch, and the wizard. The film in question, of course, was Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. My brother Andy got it right over on YouTube Shorts after a few of you were guessing a few fantasy films such as The Wizard of Oz or Willow. Needless to say, I was honestly kind of surprised and shocked that my hints weren't immediately obvious to everybody, but I was a huge fan of the first Doctor Strange film. I hope to get around to reviewing that for the channel sometime, but let's finally talk about the sequel and let's get cracking. The multiverse is once again at risk when America Chavez is being hunted down by interdimensional monster after interdimensional monster. Why? Because her ability is to traverse through the multiverse at will, and Doctor Strange must help her figure out why they want her dead. The reason is because they want to take her power for their own. You see, they've been conjured up by the Scarlet Witch herself, Wanda Maximoff, who is trying to find a way to travel to another universe where her children that she created in WandaVision actually exist. Doctor Strange must stop her before the entire multiverse crumbles. This is a film that I've often found myself incredibly mixed on. There's elements about it that I love, and elements about it that really frustrate me. It's both overly ambitious and not ambitious enough at the same exact time. I mean, it's a movie that's called The Multiverse of Madness, and that's just not true. There's nothing crazy about what you see in the movie. It's legitimately, for the most part, 2 universes that they hop back and forth from. I expected a multiverse of madness. I expected a lot of universes and a bunch of cameos, but even the cameos that we got were kind of weak. You know, they didn't really add anything to the film, and these cameos could have been replaced by other cameos that would have served the same purpose, which is basically nothing. That's where it wasn't as ambitious as it could have been. But where it was overly ambitious was the story aspect. There's just way too much going on all at once, way too flashy. Some visuals do look good, mind you, but there's others that look quite bad in my opinion, in comparison at least to everything else the MCU has done in the past. And my guess is because they just had too much on their plate. It just feels so messy, it feels really convoluted in general. Another problem that I had with this film and a few of the newer movies coming out still from the MCU is that it requires the viewers to have a Disney Plus subscription and watch all of the MCU shows. For this film in particular, you had to have watched WandaVision. Now, don't get me wrong, I love WandaVision. That's easily my favorite of the MCU shows. I watched it every single week as soon as I was able to. I haven't even finished What If, Moon Knight, or Ms. Marvel, to compare things anyway. Look, if you like TV, that's fine. If you prefer it over movies, that's fine too. It's definitely an apples and oranges type of thing. But to mix the 2 mediums into one like this is really kind of messing up the flow. Again, I love WandaVision, but you can't hinge on viewers to have seen WandaVision first. Making nods to a TV show in a movie, now that's fine. Like, for instance, randomly talking about a big green woman that's in a law office or something, noting She-Hulk, that's fine. We can even be like Captain America and say that we understand that reference. But this movie doesn't do that. It hinges on the audience to have seen the show first. Look, there's plenty of people that refuse to watch the shows. I'm not one of those people. I'll try all of the shows, but obviously I don't always finish them all. I got other shows on my plate that take precedence. That's besides the point. I think that it's just an incredibly big risk to hinge everything on the shows for a movie's success. Anthony, I did see your comment on Letterboxd saying that practically everything MCU related these days requires you to have seen everything that came before. Sure, in movie terms, that's expected. You don't watch Spider-Man 2 before seeing Spider-Man 1. And even the other movies in general in the MCU, right? This references Infinity War and Endgame. But you're much more likely to end up with an audience that has seen the movies than the shows as well. And Anthony, if you were referring in general to all of the shows as well, then, I mean, guess what? Again, that's a bad business strategy. You will lose audiences that way. I could 110% see people boycotting both the movies and the TV shows if that's what's expected of them. Heck, if anything out there could get me saying no to an MCU film, it is that. But look, I've mostly just talked about negatives here. I do love Doctor Strange. The first film was easily one of my most favorite films in the entire MCU. For a long time, it tied in first place for me, not just because of Benedict being a really lovable guy in the series, which is true, but because it took a risk. And it did something very, very different, especially for the world of superheroes. It did remote viewing and astral projection, which has not only been things I've really enjoyed looking into in the past just for fun, but it's also something that's rarely ever done in film, period. Plus, it was funny and one of the best examples I think that we've ever seen done for 3D cinema in general. I found that movie to literally be near perfection on all fronts. It was also simple enough to work. It didn't just have a ton of things going on to have a ton of things going on because, Flashy's awesome. No, it took its time and you cared about the characters a lot. And it's because of that character development in the first film that I think some of the best aspects of this film works because of that, especially the stuff going on with Christine. I think the inclusion of America Chavez was probably the best thing going on in this movie. I don't think that she was explored deeply enough. Too much else was going on, obviously, but I did like her, and I want to see more of what she has to offer at the end of the day. If anything, the missed potential in this movie could still be found in anything else that she's in. With that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at what I scored Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which was a B- letter grade. Final overall score of 74%. 74 out of 100 possible stars, which obviously is not a bad score by any means. It's relatively decent. But when you start comparing it to everything else that I've scored in the MCU as a whole, that's when you start to notice how low it is on that list. A lot of the other MCU films I've scored in the 90s, for instance, including the first film in the Doctor Strange universe. So, I do have my issues with this movie, but I still consider it to be a fairly decent film in general at the end of the day, and definitely watchable, if nothing else. With that being said, guys, leave your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. What was your favorite part? What was your least favorite part? And let me know how you would compare it to the first film. And as for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit the like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next installment for the Cinematic Shuffle. And until then, peace out.